Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a special episode of Uncanny Treks. You probably heard we've got a new DC universe coming our way, sort of, or maybe it's the same DC universe, but just with new creative personnel. It's all maybe a little unclear at this point, but the next 5 years or so of it are going to be called Gods and Monsters. So, Matt, I thought I would use this as an opportunity to coerce you into watching one of my favorite DC animated films, Justice League: Gods and Monsters.
Yeah, I was excited about this because I was thinking, maybe this will give us some hints about what James Gunn has planned, for this new DC Universe thing coming out. And
Nope.
no, I don't think this is it, Bob. But this is a
Nope.
fantastic story and well worth your time.
Yeah, yeah. So stick around for our discussion of the animated film Justice League Gods and Monsters, and then after that, we'll have a brief discussion of what we know so far about the upcoming Gods and Monsters chapter of the DCU. Matt, before we get into the movie, do you know where that line "Gods and Monsters" comes from?
Okay, I think it's from, is it Bride of Frankenstein?
Yeah, very good, very good.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's an evil mad scientist in Bride of Frankenstein who, in a very queer coded way, it's great, is trying to seduce Dr. Henry Frankenstein back into creating life, and he says something to the effect of, "Let us create a new world of gods and monsters."
Yes, and that's
Yeah,
kind of what this is. There's some monsters here, there's some gods here. Are they evil? Are they not?
yeah, we kind of don't really know until the end, right? Like which way will our Superman in particular take, right?
Correct. Which creative name, folks. Creative name. I'm glad
Indeed.
James Gunn is going to steal it from you.
There's a lot that's worth stealing from Bride of Frankenstein. It's a great movie, much better than the first Frankenstein, ironically. um, but I watched this last year, and I really liked it then. But man, I kind of forgot how dark it is, or maybe this just didn't register. But like literally, the Justice League Gods and Monsters movie opens with Jor-El and Lara about to do the Matrix rocket thing to send little Superman, little Kal-El to Earth, right? And this is like straight out of the John Byrne Superman, where it's not a baby in the rocket, but it's like the genetic matrix, and the baby will be born once it hits Earth. But good old Drew Zod, General Drew Zod, burst in and like symbolically rapes Lara by putting his genes in the matrix instead of Jor-El's. It's like, man, this is intense.
Yeah, this was messed up, Bob. It took me halfway through the film before the symbolism actually hit me, though. And then I was like,
Mm-hmm.
damn. Like, Zod raped Laura. Bad. Bad, bad, bad.
Assuming they're going with like the John Byrne version of Krypton, like I think this is as close to sex as any Kryptonians ever get. Like they don't on the John Byrne Krypton, I think the idea is that they don't like ever unveil themselves or ever touch each other. They just do this kind of like remote conception. I remember there was a scene in, I think it's in Man of Steel 1 that always stuck with me as a kid, but I didn't fully understand what was going on because I was a stupid kid. But it's like Jor-El is showing Laura an image of Earth, and it's like a picture of a dude without his shirt on working in
Right.
Kansas. And
Yeah.
she's like super horrified and scandalized by it. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. So that's how this movie opens, Bob. Let me ask you this though: do you have a favorite design of like Jarell and Laura? Because this was not mine. This was never mine. Like I never
Mm.
liked this design, even though it's the one we grew up with as kids.
Mm-hmm. I saying favorite is a strong term, but because I don't have strong opinions
Well, Bob, do
about
you have one that you
Krypton.
prefer?
Well,
It's given
I
multiple options.
yeah, I would say my mind always defaults to thinking about it in the John Byrne style because
Oh
that's what we
wow.
grew up
Okay.
with. And unlike you, I don't think I ever watched the Christopher Reeve Superman movies all the way through as a kid. Like I saw bits and pieces, but I don't think I ever
Okay.
watched them all the way through.
Yeah. See, when I think of Jarell and Laura, I immediately go to the Marlon Brando with the all white and glowing stuff going on. That was my take on Jarell and Laura.
Hmm.
And I really didn't care for the look that they did with the Cavill Superman. I did like the armored look that they had in the animated series.
If I remember right, the animated series was sort of a combination of the movie John Byrne and then also the Fleischer Superman aesthetic. That's
Yes,
sort
it took the best of everything and just kind of put it all together. But
yeah. That '90s animated series is so good, and it's not appreciated for how good it was.
well, it was overshadowed by Batman.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it wasn't as good as the Batman one, but it was still so good. All right, so we get another kind of interesting spin on the Superman mythos, and it kind of fits the Bush, Obama, Trump era, I guess Biden era too, where we have southwestern farmers that find Lord Zod's rocket, and being red state reactionaries, immediately call in the government and Lex Luthor. However, Mexican migrants are passing through. They've already found the baby, and they flee and hide with him. And I'm just gonna call our Superman in this movie Lorzod because that seems to be kind of the way they're going with him, right? He's
Right.
kind of like the yeah.
After watching this and after reading The Nail and all these other like takes on where
Red Sun.
Superman's rocket, yeah, Red Sun, I think DC should do a really stupid project where like a writer from every state produces a short story about what life would be like if Superman grew up in their respective state, and then put them all in a book.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
It would be
It
fun, yeah.
stupid.
It would be really stupid, but it would be fun.
It'd be
Yeah.
fun. Yeah. Although maybe my suggestion would be to do like a writer from every region of the U.S., but then also do some other countries. That might be fun.
No, Bob, Superman's
So
American. I only want him in America.
America, America. It's,
Just
it's
kidding.
it's it's not truth, justice in the global way, Matt. It's truth, justice in the American way.
Exactly. Why do I care what happens to Superman if he lands in China?
All right. So, Matt, we get early in the film our first appearance of our darker trinity, the trinity of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And, as these original animated movies from DC sometimes do, they got relatively big names. This time they all came from TV procedurals. So we have Benjamin Bratt from Law and Order is voicing the Laura Zod Superman. We got your boy Michael C. Hall from Dexter voicing the Kirk Langstrom Batman. And then we've got Tamara Taylor from Bones and I guess also Altered Carbon voicing Wonder Woman.
Yeah, when I first saw the designs for these characters, specifically like in the in just the still image, when you select it on HBO Max, I was like, these aren't that great looking. But after I learned more about them and the backstories that they came up with and everything, I really started to get drawn toward them. I think they're pretty solid. I was really psyched that Michael C. Hall was voicing Batman, but when I read that before watching the film, I could never get like the image of Bruce Wayne with Michael C. Hall's voice to like work in my head. So then I found out it's Kirk Langstrom, so I'm like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. So smart idea on their part because I don't think Hall could play a good Bruce Wayne.
And then did you recognize Taylor from Altered Carbon?
I did, yeah. She played like a lawyer character in season one. I'm really pissed though that show was not renewed for a third season. They could have gone so long with that show, and I mean, it literally set up to where they could create whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted, sci-fi.
Yeah, because there's several novel sequels, right?
Oh yeah,
Like
and
it's
they're all completely different. Like even the way they're, it's primarily about being like re-sleeved. Like after you die, you can go into another body. Your conscience carries over. So like the first season started one actor, and the second season I can't remember the guy's name, but the second season, Anthony Mackie was the main character.
Oh, nice.
Same name, same memories, but just different look.
Different body, different.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I need to watch that show. I haven't, but it's on the list to get to at some point. And then Matt, did you recognize who our new Wonder Woman was? I didn't the first time I saw this.
Yeah, I didn't have a clue until we got the flashback to the what I've termed the Red Wedding.
Yeah, yeah. Just to go ahead and tell people, she's Becca, who's Orion of the New God's wife. Although Becca isn't often included in the New God stuff. I don't think she was created till the 80s, and she just doesn't show up that much, sadly. So, Matt, do you hate Steve Trevor?
I feel like Steve Trevor should always require like Wonder Woman's boyfriend in front of his name because that's his significance. I
Yeah,
don't need
like
all this general GI Joe shit that they have him doing. It's just
yeah, I've never been a big fan of Steve Trevor, but especially since I dated to the New 52, they've tried to turn him into, like you say, General G.I. Joe or Nick Fury. I just hate that. I hate that so much. But yeah, like you had in the 60s, the Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane comic, they should definitely make Wonder Woman's boyfriend, Steve Trevor comic. That would be pretty
they
funny.
really should. I mean, that's what I think of him as, and Leave him at that.
Yeah, and then so we see Casnia mentioned in this as like where these some of the characters are from, and that's a fictional country that I think they made up in Superman the animated series and Justice League the animated series.
Yeah, it was primarily from the Bruce Timm stuff. That's the place with Queen Audrey, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think so. I think so. So, Matt, is it satisfying or is it just overdone at this point in superhero media to just watch our Dark Trinity just murder some dudes?
I mean, it was fun, and you knew it was coming because anytime the Justice League is different or quote unquote bad, they're murdering people left and right because we have to make sure that the viewing audience knows that these are not the regular Justice League that we're used to.
These are not the Justice Leaguers you're looking for.
No.
So the first three villains we see are Justice League face are Blockbuster, Livewire, and Bronze Tiger. Did you have any thoughts on the Bronze Tiger design?
Okay, Bob. So I was reading an article while researching this film, and they said that the three people were Solomon Grundy, Livewire, and Cheetah. So
I mean, I sort of see that, but it's also like, damn, they really weren't paying attention because it's like Bronze Tiger's a man and Blockbuster is not a zombie.
yeah. So to answer your question, like with the Bronze Tiger thing, apparently people just thought that was a gender swap cheetah.
I mean, maybe it is a gender swap Sheeta, but I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be Bronze Tiger.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm just saying these are, whatever source I was reading, these are the ones that your school teachers were warning you about.
I do. So we get a dynamic between Dark Batman and Dark Superman, where it's like Dark Batman is the Spock to like Dark Superman, kind of like ambitious Kirk. And I thought that was a kind of interesting character dynamic. You sometimes see people kind of write Superman as Kirk and Batman as Spock, but it's kind of interesting to see it like in this kind of darker, more world bestriding ambitions context.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed that dynamic as well. I do feel like Michael C. Hall though has typecast himself in these roles where he doesn't show the like he's just emotionless. You know what I mean? Very.
Yeah. Did you ever watch 6 Feet Under?
I watched some of it. Yeah, wasn't his character similar to Dexter Morgan, or am I wrong?
I think so, but I didn't watch. That's like the big HBO show that I've only watched like maybe 2 episodes of. It's
Yeah.
what I've always meant to watch more of. But yeah, I was wondering if he was a similar affect to Dexter in that. I think he was, but I'm not sure.
That's what was so crazy when he played JFK in that one film. I just kept seeing like Dexter trying to
Oh,
pretend to be
when did he
JFK.
play JFK?
Oh, it was The Crown.
Oh my God, I can't believe that Alan has been like railing at me about The Crown for like what feels like a decade, but the fact that Michael C. Hall was JFK never came up. As I recall, he doesn't at all stretch his acting range with this. But have you ever seen a little movie called Cold in July?
No, I haven't.
I actually really like it. It's just a very kind of like low stakes Texas crime movie, but it's got Michael C. Hall, Sam Shepard, and Don Johnson. It's pretty good. It's worth watching. For a connection, you remember the Jonah Hex episode of Batman the Animated Series?
Yes.
The dude who wrote that episode wrote the novel that Cold in July is based on, Joe Lansdale.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's all interconnected.
It's all interconnected.
The world is so much smaller than we think it is. All right.
So, Matt, we see a lot of killer robots coming after our mad scientist in this movie. When you initially saw them, did you think they were Apocalyptin, Reach, OMAC, something else?
I thought they were OMAC at first.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was at too.
I think the Batman was the first one we're introduced to, and it looked like an OMAC with the.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. And then, did the movie successfully manipulate your emotions about Ray Palmer's miniature ponies?
Yeah, I was so happy for the ponies because they made sure to specifically show us that the horses were running from that destroyed truck. Of course, then this led into them being like eaten by an animal. So I was like, "Fuck y'all."
but but at least it was only one miniature pony. The others are presumably living happily in the forest.
Oh, no, they'll probably be eaten as well. They're
Yeah, yeah, probably.
they're dead.
It's this is a dark movie. Comics just aren't for kids anymore,
Yes.
kids. So, Matt, we have Will Magnus, who you may know as the Professor X to the Metal Men's X Men, And in this version, he's an old college friend of Langstrom's and also of Ray Palmer. And he's married to Tina, who, in the comics would be Platinum, the female member of the Metal Men. And then he's using another Metal Men robot, Tin, as a servant.
Yeah, that's correct. And Platinum does show up in this, and when Tina is Platinum, she is topless apparently.
Well, Matt, the comics aren't just for kids anymore, and this is an original movie for adults. Even though it's animated, it's for adults, Matt.
I was so confused by the design. It's
Yeah.
like, I guess Metal's really cold, but at the same time, I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense with her. No, it's
Well, at this point, we think she's a person.
right. Yeah, yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Towards the beginning of the movie, yes, but then we eventually learn that she is Platinum, and for some reason, she is portrayed as topless. I'm guessing is what they were going
Well,
for.
I mean, I think the sense we get is that Willow Magnus is a pervert and,
Yeah, she's pretty
designed her.
perverted.
Yeah, designed her in that way. But even though this film is not for kids, Matt, we sure have an annoying kid. That's one Victor Stone.
Yeah, that little shit curses not even just not once, but twice.
Yeah, yeah. So, Matt, this is maybe a controversial statement, but I get the feeling that this movie and recent comics think that Silas Stone, the father of Cyborg, aka Victor Stone, is actually more interesting than Victor. And I can't say I disagree with them.
Yeah, seeing an older black dude with gun arms is definitely like interesting to me.
Fair, fair. So, Matt, is it just me, or is this portrayal of Lois Lane as like an angry, short-haired feminist like pretty sexist?
It's ridiculously sexist. Like, she's a career woman who she doesn't need a man, and she doesn't have time to wash her long hair, so she just keeps it short.
Yep, yep. So, Batman, Matt, he's framed for killing Victor Freeze. Wonder Woman is framed for killing Ray Palmer, and Superman is framed for killing Victor and Silas Stone.
And they made sure to explain how they knew it was Wonder Woman because, her little feminine foot kicked Palmer's truck. They took your little girly footprint off the side of his pickup, and that's how they knew it was you, Wonder Woman. I didn't, that bothered me. I don't.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, in hindsight, maybe that wasn't
There
the
could have been
best.
other ways to explain that.
Yeah,
It's your little
yeah.
bitty foot.
So we find out that all three of the four murder victims are Luther's boys, which is to say the members of his scientist club, and then we meet the other Luther's boys, who presumably all will be targets of these OMAC looking robots, and we've got John Henry Irons, who's Steel in the regular comics. Tio Moro, who's a mad scientist Justice League foe that you might know from our X-Men 92 versus Young Justice coverage. Michael Holt. Do you know who Michael Holt is, Matt?
I could not remember what he did.
He's Mr. Terrific.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Duh.
Yeah, and that's why he names it Operation Fair Play. And
That
then
makes
how about
sense.
how about Pat Dugan? Do you know Pat Dugan?
No.
That is Stargirl's stepdad. He's the guy who does Stripe.
Okay. Emil Hamilton, I know. That's one I for sure know from Superman.
Yeah, yeah. Initially he's a villain, but then he's Superman's buddy, and then we find out no, he's really a really cool villain named Ruin.
Yeah.
And then Karen Beecher, we also know from our Young Justice coverage, right? She's Bumblebee.
Bumblebee, yeah. It's
Yeah,
Bumblebee.
yep. Thaddeus Savannah is the old Captain Marvel foe. Did you know who Kimio Hoshi was, Matt?
No, I didn't know who that one was.
That's Dr. Light,
Oh, duh.
the non-rapey Dr.
The
Light.
non,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the better Dr. Light. And then finally we had Stephen Shin, who's the one I didn't recognize the first time I saw this. Any idea who he is?
Not a clue. No, he had no idea who he was.
He's a marine biologist, Matt. He was
Oh,
introduced.
let's throw him
He
in
was
there
inter-
too.
Yeah, he was an Aquaman supporting character in the New 52. Yeah.
It's a regular DC Comics Mensa meeting, is what this is, Bob.
Yeah, but Matt, for those of us who resent smart people, this was nice because we get to see them all brutally murdered.
Every one of them gets killed.
Sadly, Pamela Isley, aka Poison Ivy, she's cool enough to supply the DC Mensa with weed, but she's not cool enough to be a member. I felt that was a little unfair. So, Matt, I don't know that I've ever seen the comics or the animation, although I don't even know if they've been in animation, but I don't know if I've ever seen the comics link the metal men to nanites before, but I guess it does make a lot of sense. Like, that's a good explanation.
It really does. I haven't read much with Middlemen in it other than some crossover issues they did with Superman a long, long
Yeah,
time ago.
same, same.
But the nanites are kind of a logical way to explain how they have their powers. I kind of look forward to James Gunn taking that and making a Middleman movie. Come on, James Gunn.
Oh, I guess I was wrong. The metal men were in, I forgot they were in Batman Brave and the Bold, although really they make that. In Batman Brave and the Bold, they kind of make Will Magnus seem more like the hero than the metal men. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I honestly like if James Gunn had announced a Metal Men cartoon instead of a Creatures Commandos cartoon, I would be more excited. I feel like.
Yeah, that's a more recognizable property.
Yeah. So Lorazad, Superman, he doesn't have a cape mat. He's too dark. He's too cool for a cape. He's got a trench coat, but it still flutters when he flies. Is that awesome or is it played out?
I thought it was awesome, Bob. It hit me every single time it happened because it happened like 5 times. I was like the Leo meme pointing at the fucking TV. Like, it looks like a cape. It looks like a damn cape. Look at it.
Just as long as you're not the Soy Jack character pointing, better to be the Leo pointing. So we get a kind of frustrating interview between Lois and Lore, which I honestly was kind of interesting. It was like a kind of frustrating replay of like Superman 1 or the animated series. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was way different from what we were used to. Once again, we got to remind the audience this is not the same guy.
Yeah, this is not the Superman you know. This is not your daddy's Superman.
This is a
This
different
one's
Superman.
not for
Folks.
kids. Not for kids.
He can't handle interviews.
And then we have the big reveal after a lot of teasing that Amanda Waller is the president.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then we have Karen Beecher just not be impressed by Batman at all, which I thought was pretty funny. And most importantly, the thing that really made the whole movie worth it for me is we get to see Becca Wonder Woman beat the shit out of Steve Trevor.
Yeah, she threw that man into a weight set, Bob. Like, he should be dead. He should be, like, dead.
He should. Yeah. Hey, man, I would like that. I would like that. So, Matt, what did you think of our whole Red Wedding flashback with Becca Wonder Woman?
Like, I really liked that whole wedding segment. Orion taking Becca on a ride through Apocalypse or New Genesis or wherever it was like very reminiscent of, Superman flying Lois over Metropolis, or had that, like, it kind of reminded me of Aladdin on the magic carpet ride.
Yeah, yeah. And then the wedding gift Orion gives to Becca of a mother box sword, that's really cool. And as far as I know, that's not in regular continuity. It should be. It's a neat idea.
Yeah, we need to see that weapon. Like, that's pretty badass. And any hero they give it to would be even cooler with it. So, do it.
It's also really interesting to see the new Genisons or the new gods. Well, I guess should call them the new Genisons because the new gods include the Apocalyptans too. Be really, really ruthless and do the Red Wedding. Like I don't think I've ever seen the new Genisons be portrayed in that light before. That was kind of cool.
Oh, they were badass. I kind of want to see more of them. They were really big in the early '90s, like in Superman, because I remember reading a lot of their stuff.
Yeah.
And then, but I never knew anything about them. I also had all the DC trading cards. I have them as characters, but I didn't have a clue, who they were, other than Mister Miracle.
Yeah, yeah. They're a strange bunch of characters. I like them, but they're a strange bunch of characters.
Yeah.
So we have the kind of creepy and a little bit perverted realization that Tina has actually been dead for years because of a DV incident. And so the Tina we've been seeing is actually Platinum, the robot that Will Magnus designed to replace her. And then we also see Luthor up and hiding out in his space station, becoming more and more like Metron of the New Gods. Speaking of the New Gods.
Yeah, did you get like hulking vibes from him?
No, I was more on that Metron kick, which I felt really kind of vindicated when he shows up later in the Mobius chair. I was like, I knew it.
yeah, you were right.
And I mean, man, I like this movie, and I like you. I especially like the Becca origin, but I would say as a slight criticism, this movie maybe spends too much time on the origins. I don't know, especially like I feel like the whole Batman Metal Men thing was maybe a little more drawn out than it needed to be.
Come on, Bob. We have to know how Batman became a vampire.
I mean, it's pretty quick. You know, it's just you just one injection and you're there. I
And we
mean,
got to know
it's
why Wonder Woman has red hair, because that's confusing.
yeah, yeah.
And why does Batman wear a Matrix jacket and not a cape? You know, these are things we have to know, Bob. We have to know
So, I
why.
mean, is your explanation just that no son of Drew Zod could ever wear a cape? It would always and only be a Matrix jacket?
Exactly. That's what makes Zod different from Superman.
Indeed, indeed. It turns out it's just Cape versus Trench. That's all it
That's
comes
why it's
down
so
to.
badass when Superman wears that black costume that one time.
Matt, are you talking about his Kryptonian rebirth suit or whatever it's called? Hey, man, I had the action figure that came with a damn big gun. That was a
Yeah,
cool fucking action figure.
I'm pretty sure it came with two missiles as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it did because you needed more than one missiles. So you know we've made Superman dark, we've made Batman and Wonder Woman dark, we've made the Metal Men super dark.
Yeah, I'm once again, guys. I'm going to Terminator 2 here. Middleman, Terminator 2.
Yeah,
It's there. The way
yeah,
they
no. I mean, I feel like the Metal Men cartoon, when James Gunn makes it, should just be a lighthearted thing. But I guess you know this movie and Matt would really encourage James Gunn to take it in the Terminator 2 direction.
go for it. Not Terminator.
And
Well, Terminator 1's okay. Not Terminator 3, guys.
yeah, just Terminator 2. You know, Matt, honestly, I've got to say, I've watched three Terminator movies, and the only one I like is the first one. I actually don't think the second one is that good.
Fuck you.
All right. Well, since Matt's getting hostile, and we've already brought up what James Gunn should do with the Metal Men, should we transition over into talking a little bit about the other gods and monsters? That is to say, the proposal for the first 5 years or so of the new DC universe.
That's right, folks. We are going to be talking about these rumors that have been.
Well, they're not rumors.
Some are, well, I don't know. Some of it is kind of rumorish. I feel like I get multiple stories, then I'll talk to you about it, and you'll say, that's not what I read. And I'm like, shit, are we getting wrong information?
I think the projects are established. Like you know, whether they'll come to pass is another thing entirely. But they're that I think we know what the plan is more or less.
Yeah, we have an idea of what's coming out. So let's just start off, Bob, with the cartoons. What's the first cartoon, Bob?
Well, sadly, it's the only cartoon, Matt, which I was a little depressed about. I would have liked to see more. That's the only superhero type of superhero media I really like, besides comics, of course. The cartoon is the Creature Commandos. I've never really read any Creature Commando comics, but as I understand it, their deal is that they're you know your sort of universal classic movies, a Wolfman, a Frankenstein, a vampire, and they you know they're commandos in World War II and they kill Nazis. I think that's it. So yes, you were right. I guess I was wrong. You were like, oh, Amanda Waller is going to be it, and I was like, well, Matt, that's not in the summary I read, but I guess
See,
Amanda
this is
Waller
where the
is going to be.
confusion lies, Bob, because I'm kind of wondering if what I read was incorrect or maybe was just. People start connecting the dots immediately, and like it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's also like I mean, certainly you could have Waller run the Creature Commandos, but I mean, also like I don't know, would it does it really make a difference?
No, not really. But I did a little research on Creature Commandos because I was confused by who they actually were. I looked up and I saw that we have Dr. Phosphorus, who I'm familiar with, is on the team.
Oh, he
Frankenstein,
does.
Weasel, the one you know from Suicide Squad, he may be making a comeback.
Oh, I didn't realize. I thought they were more just your straight up Universal monsters. I think the original version was more the Universal monsters, but then maybe in later form they brought on like your Weasel and your Dr. Fosters. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, see, my original thought was that it was going to be like Killer Croc and King Shark or some shit like that because you know they're
Huh.
creatures. But then I looked up the team and saw this was like one of the more recent iterations of it. So I was like, oh, maybe that's what they'll go with. All right, so that's the only cartoon, Bob. That's very disappointing. I really want to
Yeah.
see you know Legion or Batman or something.
Well, presumably the Superman and Batman animated series they've talked about are still going to happen. Like because I think timeline wise they're probably pretty far along with them. You know,
Yeah,
I think they're supposed to come out later this year, or early next year. Although it also sounds like in the new regime at HBO Max, they may not be on HBO Max. They may sell them to like Netflix or something. And then I'm less hopeful, but I think in theory we're still getting that Legion of Superheroes show too. But I'm less optimistic about that.
Well, Bob, when it comes to TV series, we've got the
But
TV series coming for sure.
yeah, we've got plenty of TV series. So we've got Waller. We've got what I'm going to call from now on True Lantern. And then we also have what I'm going to call from now on Amazons of Thrones. And then finally, the one we've all been waiting for, Matt, Booster fucking Gold.
Yeah, so Waller is supposed to be a continuation of Peacemaker, which I'm like, okay, that's fine, whatever.
Well, and I read somewhere that Peacemaker season 2 is on hiatus for now.
Right, and it's because James Gunn is currently working on the Superman Legacy movie and can't do Peacemaker season 2.
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay, you're so busy with your shit, you can't get anybody else to direct it, but okay. Or write it. You're going to write everything in this whole universe. Lanterns, the one you're referring to is True Lantern. That's Hal Jordan John Stewart is like galactic cop buddies, but it's supposed to be in the spirit of True Detective.
Is it going to be galactic? I got the sense it was going to be more Earthbound, but
Well,
maybe
if
I'm
it
wrong.
is Earthbound, I mean, that's going to be lame. So, I mean, are they going to be just like actual regular detectives?
Yeah, I don't know. I got to tell you, Matt,
That's going to
I'm
be really
not,
stupid. I'm just saying, like, if you're it's how
I'm
you
not
got
going
two
to.
Green Lanterns, you know, like, and they're
Yeah,
going to be
I,
cops.
I got to tell you, man, I'm not going to watch any of this shit. Not
Okay,
any of
well,
these not any of these TV shows.
yeah,
No, this all sounds pretty terrible. Like,
yeah.
again, like I like Waller a lot in the original Suicide Squad comics, but like I don't know that she needs an HBO Max miniseries.
I,
Like,
I kind of agree with that, but I don't know what they're going to do with it. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe they'll come up with some creative way to. Maybe she won't be the center of it. It's, I don't know.
I don't know, man.
I hope we don't get an origin
Uh,
story though, because I have a feeling that's what we're going to get.
oh god, oh Christ.
Paradise, but the Paradise Lost, your Amazons of Thrones. That's going to be like a history of the Amazonian women before Wonder Woman, so it's a prequel in a sense. And then Bob
Oh,
Booster
lovely.
Gold. I mean, I can't get excited about that. I just
Well, Matt, I can't get excited about any of these TV shows, but and this is true of the other ones to some extent too, but it's especially true of the TV series. Is that for all the hype about this, about the new direction, like I feel like all four of these shows were already like in development. Like
well, they
Waller is
totally
a
were. Yeah.
yeah, like Waller is a spinoff of Peacemaker. You know, granted, it sounds like they're going a different direction with True Lantern than they were going to go, but they've been talking about doing a Green Lantern HBO Max series for years. I don't think they'd formally announced Amazon of Thrones, but like that's really obvious too, right? Like this that's the thing that mystifies me about these announcements is that in a lot of ways they don't actually sound that different from what DC is already doing.
Yeah. Why reset everything or just tell good stories with the characters that you do have? Come on.
But
Just
yeah, like why but also like why reset everything but then not reset everything?
yeah.
Which is that's like eternally the problem of DC, like in the comics too, is it's like, oh, we want a fresh start, but we also want things to be just like they were because some of those things were working, and it's
Yeah.
just like, well, pick one.
Well, I
And then
guess that's a good way to transition to the films, Bob, because I see that a lot with these films. We've got Brave and the Bold,
yeah,
which will be Batman and Son. You know, we're getting Damian. But I will
yeah,
say that people are bitching in the comments section all around the world because if they include Damian in this particular movie, then they've skipped over the adventures of the three previous Robins. So either that or there aren't three Robins. Damien's the only Robin that's ever been there. Like, we don't know. And we don't know how they're going to handle that. Are those other characters going to be part of it? You can see where people are flipping out. You get what I'm saying?
I can see where they're flipping out, and I sympathize. But on the other hand, it's kind of like, I mean, really, do you expect them to make like a Batman and Dick Grayson movie, a Batman and Jason Todd movie, a Batman and Tim Drake movie, a Batman and Stephanie Brown movie, and then you do Damien? Like, you know,
Well, I think the real problem though is that this is going to be the first time that James Gunn's version of Batman appears on screen. So this is like the in canon Batman.
yeah.
So if he's in canon Batman and Damien's already there, then anything they do afterward is gonna would have to be kind of like, I guess, prequel. if they were going to put Dick Grayson in or
Yeah.
Jason Todd or
Or
anything
you
like
can,
that.
or you can just have them be around and do stuff with them, but it not. I don't know.
But they're
So
Nightwing and Red Hood by then, Bob. They haven't been Robin, and we haven't
yeah,
seen those great adventures.
I don't care. Like, also, I will say, I'm gonna reserve judgment on the Brave and the Bold and the Superman Legacy movie until I see a trailer, because those are of everything that's announced, those are the only two things I can actually see myself getting into.
Yeah,
But I'm gonna wait and see what the trailer looks like and then make a judgment call. But I will say I'm not hostile to the Brave and the Bold as pitched. It sounds good, like it's a classic Batman story. I mean, as much as, and I do love Dick, Jason, and Tim, but like
Bob
Damian
loves Dick.
is, I do love Dick, and Jason and Tim, but like Damian is more accessible and probably more likely to easily get over with mainstream audiences. Like, all this sounds like it makes sense, and if the trailer's good, I'll probably see it.
Yeah, I'm totally down for Brave and the Bold. Now, Superman Legacy is supposed to be like the true start of this new universe. Gunn says it's the story that takes place with a younger Superman. He is Clark Kent. He is a reporter at the Daily Planet, so it's not Smallville or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he
Mm-hmm.
people are bitching about it already, but there's not that many details.
I mean, how can we bitch
I
about
mean,
it when we don't even know anything about it yet?
it's like we want an older Superman. Like, no, no, I care. I don't care. I just want a good story.
Well, and it does sound like one reason that has me somewhat hopeful is that it sounds like for both Superman and Batman, Gunn is going to take a lot of inspiration from Grant Morrison's work on both characters, and Grant's work on both characters is some of the best versions of that stuff. So on the one hand, that gives me hope, but on the other hand, it kind of dampens my enthusiasm at a certain extent too, because like we already have a perfect Batman and a perfect Superman, and it's Grant Morrison's Batman and Grant Morrison's Superman, and so I don't need that stuff in live action to validate it, you know?
Yeah. But then, Bob, we also have a weird, out of nowhere movie coming, Authority.
Yeah, which is very strange given like you get the impression, and maybe I'm wrong, but you get the impression that with the Brave and the Bold and the Superman, like Gunn wants to go in a, kind of more like iconic, wholesome direction with the DCU, and the Authority would seem to stand in kind of awkward tension with that, because if people aren't familiar, it's a revisionist Wildstorm superhero team, and it's very much like, oh, what if the Justice League were dark and didn't take any prisoners and really were ruthless.
Yeah, kind of like that other show, the one that's on Amazon.
The
The
Boys, yeah,
Boys, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the difference is in the Boys, they're evil, and in the Authority, they're good, but they're just ruthless. But
That's one I have the
yeah.
least interest in. I have a feeling that if anything, it's like maybe that's just like a passion project for somebody. I don't know. It was a weird inclusion in all of
I
this.
mean, people do love the original Authority writers, Warren Ellis, and then Mark Miller did it for a while. I hate the Miller run, but people think very, very highly of both the Warren Ellis and the Mark Miller stuff. And since the New 52, the Authority has been in the DC universe in the comics, but it's always been a little bit of an awkward fit, you know?
Right. And then the next film, Bob, Supergirl, which will be a continuing adventure of the character that is introduced in the Flash film.
Wait, so this is one of these things where we were just reading different things. What the hell are you talking about?
My understanding is Supergirl's in the Flash movie. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I'm not aware of that at
Oh,
all.
okay. Supergirl is in the Flash film. She
Really?
plays a pretty major role.
Huh.
We don't know much other than that like the costume design is like the black outfit with the big ass S, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like that look. But yeah, apparently she's getting her own film after the
Huh.
Flash.
Well, so what I knew about it, and this just kind of comes again to where we're getting entirely different things about this,
Right.
is like, as I understand it, the Supergirl movie sounds like it's going to be an adaptation of the Tom King, Bill Bliss Everly comic that just wrapped up Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow,
Right.
which is basically just like Supergirl in space having adventures. Did you ever see the John Wayne movie True Grit?
No, but I've actually read some of this arc you're referring to. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it.
it's
Yeah.
like it's an 8 issue miniseries. It's a wonderful comic. Like it's basically like All Star Superman, but for Supergirl.
Yeah.
It's like really, really good, and like I love it dearly. It's very new too. I think it wrapped up like 2 years ago, maybe even less than that. But I don't know. Like so, on the one hand, kind of like with the Grant Morrison elements of Brave and the Bold and Superman Legacy, like it gives me some confidence that okay, James Gunn may know what he's doing and he's going for great versions of these characters. But then I also just hit that thing of like kind of like with the Grant Morrison stuff, it's like, well, I've already read the comic and I love it.
Right.
I don't need to see it on the big screen, and in some ways I'm afraid seeing it on the big screen kind of cheapens it.
See, now we're going back to the whole thing of Bob. Is the book better than the movie?
Well, and I mean, no, sometimes the movie's better, but I just don't believe that. I don't believe that a DC or a Marvel movie can ever be better than the comic. I don't. I just think the constraints on DC and Marvel movies mean they're never going to be better than the comics.
Bob, the final movie on the slate is Swamp Thing. How do you feel about that movie?
I feel nothing. I mean, like okay, the first seven Swamp Thing movies, or how I think they just made two, but the first set of Swamp Thing movies they made in the '80s didn't catch. The first Swamp Thing TV show didn't catch. The second Swamp Thing TV show didn't catch. Maybe this Swamp Thing movie will catch. Okay, I don't care. Like again, I like Swamp Thing, but I don't care. Not gonna watch that. Depending on trailers, I may watch Batman, Brave and the Bold, Superman Legacy, and Supergirl, but it depends on trailers.
All right, Bob. But before that, we have a couple of movies coming out before James Gunn's big universe shakeup.
Yeah, and the way Gunn is talking, at least from what I read, it sounds like they are basically. He makes it sound like it's going to be a pretty organic transition from Shazam 2 to Flash to Blue Beetle to Aquaman 2 to the new stuff in 2025.
Yeah, as long as the film doesn't fuck up his potential vision, I don't think he cares. But also, all these movies have to still make money somehow, so he can't be like dogging them and saying they're not part of his universe.
Yeah, yeah.
He's in a really weird position. Like,
Well, and I mean, it's just that weird thing of it's a full restart, except for the 5 movies we're going to push out.
yeah. I'm sure there's got to be a post credits thing in Aquaman 2. That would be my guess. If they're going to do something that introduces everything, it'll be
Yeah.
post credits Aquaman 2.
Well, and I'm still kind of astonished. I'm not astonished that Shazam 2 and Aquaman 2 are coming out, but I still am sort of astonished that Flash and Blue Beetle are coming out. I kind of figured they would just do the Batgirl route and take the tax credit, you know?
Yeah, well, the Blue Beetle thing is the best part because apparently nothing in the movie is significant enough to affect James Gunn's vision.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, he keeps prefacing it with it could be part of the new DC universe. It could be. I think he's
Yeah.
waiting to see if people actually like it or not. Like, see
Yeah.
how well it does in the box office before he's like, no, we're going to put that one in the Elseworlds category.
Well, and it's interesting because it's like they've ruled out that Henry Cavill will come back as Superman,
Yeah,
but they haven't ruled out that Jason Momoa or Gail Gadot or whoever plays Shazam will come back. You know,
right.
and I guess they haven't even ruled out that Ezra Miller, who plays the Flash, will come back. Although I think probably it's a safe assumption that after Flash, we'll see a different Flash.
Yeah, I think that people are speculating that the Flash film is going to reset everything. That'll be the ending to that, and then some
Yeah,
characters will come back as their same look. Some won't. Some will be the same actors. Some won't.
yeah.
Because I'm sure John Cena's still going to be Peacemaker in the Waller TV series.
Yeah, yeah, and it is interesting about like how much is this just James Gunn still wants Peacemaker to be unaffected versus how much is it like DC's like, oh, we've sunk all this money into these shitty movies, so you can do a fresh start, but it has to continue from these.
So, Bob, in that Elseworlds category, though, we do have two films that will be coming out. Robert Pattinson's Batman 2.
Matt, call it by its name, Bat Pat 2. Thank
I'm
you.
not saying Pat. That's just to give you a heads up, Bob. People are saying Mr. Freeze is the villain.
That doesn't sound inspiring.
I'm just letting you know. And then the Joker 2 with the long ass title. I don't remember what it is. Dang,
Yeah, Fall I Do, maybe.
something like that. Yeah, it's coming as well. So you'll have those films. And then you got Lady Gaga playing Harley Quinn. So
Yeah, it is kind of interesting how it does seem like DC is just assuming that Elseworlds will work, which, I mean, I think they're right, but it is kind of interesting that they're willing to go that direction. Because, with Joker 1, they'd already sort of, and with Bat Pat 1, they'd already kind of been in that direction anyway. So that is an interesting departure from Marvel's approach, I will say.
I'm just very surprised that the movie people think we're smart enough at this point to handle having a regular canon and then an Elseworlds. We've come a long way.
Yeah, we have. And again, I'm not the target audience for this stuff because it's like I don't really like superhero movies that much, despite the fact that I regularly podcast with you about them. But like I don't know, I'm still just kind of astonished that other than Creature Commandos, Damien being in Brave and the Bold, and the Authority, like nothing in this was actually surprising, and either wasn't already announced as being in development, or like you're kind of surprised it wasn't already in development, like the Amazon of Thrones thing. I don't know. I just kind of an underwhelming slate for me. Although whatever. I'm glad the Snyderverse is dead. Fuck the Snyderverse. So who knows?
Bob has very strong opinions on the Snyderverse. I thought maybe it could work eventually if they kept throwing shit out. But
Matt, on a long enough time horizon, everything could work.
so that's pretty much our coverage on all the news that's come out this week. James Gunn, he's constantly like running his mouth, so I'm sure we'll have more information as the weeks come. But we will say this, guys: go watch Gods and Monsters, Justice League Gods and Monsters. It's on HBO Max. Check it out. It's well worth your time.
And also, maybe don't go see the movies, but definitely read All Star Superman, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and Batman and Son. All good comics.
Yeah, get the comics in there before you go see the films. Respect to the source material.
No, don't put it like that. It's not a question of fidelity. It's just a question of quality. Look, Matt, you're sounding like Shuri. You're assuming that just because somebody commits adultery, they'll also commit treason. That's a little bit of preview for our next week's episode on Black Panther. So this has been Uncanny Treks on Gods and Monsters, both the animated film and the upcoming slated DC films. I am Bob in Cascadia. That is Matt in the Southland. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks for listening.